It should. Take it over, boy. You know how to get out of there? Is there someplace else that you need in the computer?
Did you take your thingy?
Yeah, I did take my thingy.
Which one?
That's in the
CD1.
computer.
You're listening to KFAI
Pretty
90.3
good.
FM Minneapolis
Okay, let me just delete
106.7
this. Let me
FM
just take
St.
this
Paul
out.
and online at kfai.org. Radio without boundaries.
I got a little confused with the computer saying just for you.
No, I'll just push it over there. Oh, okay.
I guess you won't.
Okay. In about
Radio with the Irish accent.
20 seconds.
Have a good show.
Táidir stad go dtí tá caint agus ceol.
Start the Malarkey radio with an Irish accent. The Sccent O'Sullivan. Siobhan is taking the night off, and you just heard Stu.
Stu Janice.
Stu Janice, sorry Stu. You want to get over towards that microphone there?
Sorry about that.
Stu is one half of Greenwood Tree, which is, the other half is Bill Kegley, and he had a prior engagement. Hopefully we'll get you two on a future show, Stu.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. Tell me, what are you playing there?
Oh, the instrument I'm playing is called the hammered dulcimer, and the sticks are the hammers. So I'm holding a pair of sticks in my hand. They are the hammers, and I'm hitting the dulcimer that has strings going across the top of it. So that makes it a hammered dulcimer. And the action is actually kind of like a piano, except there aren't any keys. So if you think about what happens when you press a piano key, there are hammers that hit strings, and I'm doing the same thing, except I'm holding the hammers in my hands instead of activating them with a keyboard.
So is it a full chromatic instrument? You have flats and you have all the notes?
I have most of the notes. It's not a full chromatic instrument.
Okay.
It's more of a diatonic, but it covers 3.5 octaves, and
Okay.
I can get just about everything, but not in every octave.
Okay. Tell me, where is that? It sounds as if it might be an English instrument, Old English. Is that, am I right in that?
There are a couple of origin stories for the hammered dulcimer. One of them says that it goes back to biblical times, although the people who have studied it the most think that that probably is not the case, and that it more likely originated in Europe, in what is now Germany. Although it has spread east and west, and a lot of cultures consider it indigenous. So, for example, it's the national instrument of Hungary, where it's known as a cymbalum, and it can be found in India, in the Middle East, in China. There was a very good player who was from Cambodia, lived here in the Twin Cities for a good number of years. In the British Isles itself, a lot of Americans play British Isles music, but you don't find a lot of dulcimers in Ireland or England or Scotland. There are a few, but not too many.
Now, you said dulcimers, but you're talking about a hammered dulcimer
Yes,
here.
that's correct.
So
Yeah.
the dulcimer is a different instrument. What does that look like?
Right. So there's also a mountain dulcimer or a lap dulcimer, or sometimes it's called an Appalachian dulcimer, and that they share a name, but they are completely different instruments, not related at all. The mountain dulcimer is hourglass shaped. You hold it on your lap. It has 4 strings compared to the hammer dulcimer. My dulcimer has 76 strings, and I have to tune each one every time.
That's good. Actually, you've been in here for about 45 minutes showing up this instrument and another one which is on the desk here. Which tell us about this one. Tell us what it looks like.
Yeah. Okay. So
You want to get a bit closer to the mic?
Sure.
Yeah.
yeah. So the instrument that Dave is referring to is called a bowed psaltery, and psaltery is spelled Psaltery, and it's got a triangle shape. And if we have any geometry fans listening, it's in particular an isosceles triangle. And the strings are anchored at the base of the triangle and then extend down until they reach one of the edges.
Okay.
And because of the triangle, each string ends up being a different length.
You can hold it up for
yes,
our
that's
Facebook
right.
viewers. We're on Facebook, by the way,
Yes.
folks. It's
So-
on my
Yes, so there's
Facebook.
yes, so those watching on Facebook, this is the bowed psaltery, strings anchored here, and then they come along the sides, and each one is a different length, so each string is a different note.
And well, maybe you can just give us a tune. We can
Okay.
see how it works and listen to it.
Sure.
Take as much time as you need.
Okay. So I hold it on my lap because I like to use 2 bows when I play.
2 bones, okay.
So this is a tune called "The Star of the County Down," the waltz version.
Stu Janus on the Old Psaltery, and that is spelled Psaltery.
Yes.
And I can just imagine grand ladies and gentlemen comporting to that music in times gone by. Is it an old instrument?
You know, you'd think it would be. And there are psalteries that go way back, but those kinds of psalteries were plucked, and they actually are shaped more like a hammered dulcimer, which for those who aren't watching the Facebook feed, the hammered dulcimer is a trapezoid shape. And the story I've heard on the boat psaltery is that it was invented about 100 years ago by a German violin teacher who wanted his students to practice bowing techniques.
Oh, okay.
So, unlike a fiddle where you change pitch by moving your fingers up and down the neck, every string is a different note, and it's all about the bow.
You just, yeah. So tell me, what material is the bow made of?
These bows are just nylon, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, you're listening to Malarkey, radio with an Irish accent, and I have Stu Janus, one half of Greenwood Tree, a musical group from the Twin Cities. And before we go any further, Stu, I'd like to give your website website address, URL, which is greenwood-tree.com. Now, you also teach at the Homestead Picking Parlor. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the Homestead Picking Parlor is kind of the Twin Cities' premier folk music store. So they have instruments, they have recordings, they have lessons, and they have jam sessions every night and during the day on weekends.
And they have a great selection of instruments and also recordings.
Yes, that's right.
I drop in there myself
Mhm.
quite a lot. So when do you teach? Do you teach every week?
I teach every other Tuesday evening,
Okay.
and if there are any aspiring dulcimer players out there and you want to learn, you can certainly give the Homestead Picking Parlor a call. Their number is 612-861-3308.
That's the Homestead Picking Parlor, 612-861.
3308.
We have something breaking in on our signal here. Okay, solved.
All right.
Something from Kinshasa's show was left on the board. It just started playing all of a sudden. So, the Homestead Picking Parlor, 612-861-3308, and there's going to be a fee for that, which is probably affordable. And you teach every second week.
Right.
Now, you just teach you instruct on the hammer dulcimer. Do you
Mhm.
instruct on the psaltery as well?
Occasionally, yeah. Yeah, there haven't been a whole lot of boat psaltery students, but if somebody wants to learn it, I'm happy to teach it.
Are they easy to come by, those instruments, psaltery?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been to the Renaissance Festival, but there used to be people playing
Oh, I'm
playing
sure.
there all the time.
It's a Renaissance Festival instrument, isn't
Right.
it?
Even if it's a new instrument, it sounds like it should be.
Are you active in the Renaissance Festival?
You know, I'm not. The only time I've performed at the Ren Fest is for weddings.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people get married there, and occasionally they have Greenwood Tree down there.
Now, do you also do ordinary weddings in churches and
Yeah.
places?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
yourself and Bill?
Right. Yeah, Greenwood Tree has been a duo for something like 31 years, and we've been doing weddings since the beginning.
Okay. Now, I read on either the Homestead Picking Parlor site or your own site the story about how you came to meet up with the hammer dulcimer. You almost didn't.
Yes,
Tell
that's
us
right.
about that.
Okay, sure. So I graduated from college in 1981, and I had my master's degree in statistics, and I got a job in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I showed up for work, and they didn't have a cube for me, so they stuck me in sharing a cubicle with a guy who had a spare table in his, and he turned out to be a dulcimer player, and I started there in August, and over Labor Day weekend he was going to be performing at a local festival. I went along, and I thought it was a pretty cool instrument, and let's see, he got me playing the penny whistle, which I don't do anymore, which is just as well.
He
and-
just handed you a whistle and told you to play. You already knew how to play it.
Well,
right?
I knew how to play the flute.
Okay.
I wasn't a whistle player at the time, but we had a band, and he would call he'd call folk dances, or no, we played for folk dances. One day the caller abruptly quit, so my friend took over the calling duties, and that was when I got started on the hammer dulcimer.
But you had already been practicing it and learning it. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I think you're probably a natural musician then, obviously. Well, so if you hadn't gotten a job, and if the cubicle hadn't been, if the cubicle had been available, you
That's
would be
right.
here.
In fact, the rest of the story is about 4 hours after I had accepted that job in North Carolina, I got a phone call inviting me to interview with 3M here in the Twin Cities, and of course I turned them down. But a few years later, I ended up here.
And you're still working for 3M?
I'm still working for 3M.
Wow, congratulations. That's a long stay. How many years is that?
32.
And what do you do with 3M?
I do kind of a combination of things. So about half my time is spent as a statistician. The other half is spent facilitating workshops to help businesses go after what they think are intractable problems.
Intractable problems.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, what kind of what's an intractable problem?
Oh, let's see. Let's see. Sometimes,
Without giving away any
right,
names,
of course,
yeah.
you have no corporate secrets here. But sometimes, sometimes they're losing money. They need to figure out how to turn it around. I don't have any magic formulas to do that, but I can help them come up with ideas.
You're being very modest. What you do is you point out the obvious, right?
Or there have been times when different groups see the world differently, and,
Yes.
and they have to come together and be unified.
Yeah. Actually, I worked at 3M myself when I first came here for about a year as a contractor.
Okay.
And I loved working there. It's such a happy place and a huge place. I'm sure it still is big.
Yes, it's still big.
Okay, let's. Can we hear something, another tune on the hammer
Sure.
dulcimer? And you can tell us what it is.
Yeah, I'll play a few jigs here. Start with an English jig called "The Moon and Seven Stars," and then go into Irish. I believe it's Irish, called "The Mug of Brown Ale," and finish it off with "The One-Horned Sheep."
Very nice. That's Stu Janis from Greenwood Tree musical group here in the Twin Cities. Stu and Bill Kegley from that one. And that was a set of jigs played on the hammered dulcimer. Thank you, Stu. And you're listening to Malarkey, a radio with an Irish accent. Sccent O'Sullivan and David O'Sullivan. Siobhan is taking the night off. She's preparing to go to Ireland next week, I believe, and actually I'll be following along the week after. And we'll have some pre-recorded shows for you. Next week we'll have a show on, I believe, some music related to the 4th of July, because next Monday is the 4th of July. So we'll see if we can dig up some Irish tunes that reflect our day here in the United States. Stu, I'm going to ask you to play the Bode Psalter again, because I want to bring the camera a little closer so that folks on Facebook can see it. And tell us what you want to play.
Okay, this one is a tune that does double duty. So at Christmas time it's called What Child Is This? But during the rest of the year it's called Green Sleeves.
Green Sleeves, or What Child Is This? Or on Christmas time. That's from Stu Janis from Greenwood Tree. Thank you, Stu. That's a beautiful instrument. How much would one of those things cost me? Not that I'm going to buy one. Do I have to have it made?
No, there are a number of places that make them. They sell them at the Homestead Pick and Parlor.
Okay.
And also music maker kits out in Stillwater. And I'm guessing you could get one. It's been a long time since I've been in the market, but I'm guessing you could get one for $200, $250.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What about strings? Do they break a lot?
Fortunately, they don't. I think I've only broken one. I've had this dulcimer since 1991, and I think I've only had one or two string breaks.
Good.
And the psaltery happens a little more often, but still I'd say it averages less than one a year.
Oh, that's good. Okay, a lot of people have been asking me, I'm going to take a kind of an aside in the show and talk really quickly about Brexit. We all know what Brexit is, and the ramifications for the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland. Well, it goes without saying that much debate and negotiations will ensue Scotland may well make the break from the UK. Northern Ireland is another matter. It may find itself drifting loose from all current financial aid from the EU and from the UK. Both Irelands may finally unite into one island, but there may be strong opposition to the South because of the financial burden the North would bring. A united Ireland may be able to attract increased external investment into the North and more grants and financial aid from the EU, provided the EU continues to exist. Personally, I have no idea what's going on, and I think many politicians are in the same boat. And the worrying part is that Euro politicians have shown themselves to be no longer able to accomplish tasks without burying themselves in mountains of bureaucracy. Whatever happens, it will take a while, so we'll just have to sit on the fence and watch. There isn't much we can do from over here, I guess, except talk, and we'll do a lot of that. You're listening to Malarkey Radio with an Irish accent. It's Sccent Siobhan is taking the night off, preparing for Ireland. And I have in the studio Stu Janis from Greenwood Tree, wherein he plays with Bill Kegley. And they play all over town. I want to talk about that again for a little while, Stu. Tell me about Mr. Bottles. Who is Mr. Bottles?
Mr. Bottles. My wife was a puppeteer for about 25 years. And she and I did a British-style Punch and Judy show, and I was the bottler. So in traditional British Punch and Judy, the bottler is the one who runs around and collects money from the audience afterwards. I didn't do too much of that. I had more of an active role in the show than they might. But I was out in front, and I'd get the kids and the puppets to talk to each other.
Okay.
You know, in England, they know how to talk to the puppets. It was a pretty foreign concept in the U.S.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Did you get once you got one or two kids talking?
Yeah.
Maybe the rest joined
Right.
in.
Yeah. There's some pretty standard lines. So Punch will do something he shouldn't, and he'll be accused, and he'll say, "Oh no, I didn't," and the kids are supposed to shout back, "Oh yes, you did," but they don't know that. So I had to teach them that.
Yeah, that's typical pantomime.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you play for local choirs and performance ensembles, especially when they perform Malcolm Dalglish's Hammer Dulcimer compositions.
Right.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, Malcolm Dalglish was one of the people who was instrumental in what's known in the dulcimer community, at least, as the Hammer Dulcimer revival back in the 70s. And he played with Gray Larson as a duo, Doug Larson, and then they later became Metamora. But in recent years, he's moved on to both playing and singing, and he's written some really wonderful arrangements for choir and hammer dulcimer. And I've worked with a number of school choirs and the Minnesota ACDA honors choirs, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay. We're coming to the end of the show, Stu. It goes very fast, and when we're having fun, it just goes fast.
Yeah.
And Mukhtar from Sangam is waiting to get in here. Stay tuned for Sangam, and Gudi and Takin Shukun, Gudi Tupson. I want to thank Stu Janus again for coming in to play the hammer dulcimer for us and the bowed psaltery. And we will play out with a tune from Sean Keane, Liam O'Flynn, and Artie McGlynn. This is from a CD called Love Our Love, and the track does not have a title, would you believe? There you go, Mukhtar. It's all yours. Thank you. I think there's 40 seconds for you.
There's about 25 seconds left according to this.
Yeah, you can fade it down anytime you want.
Where is the? If you give me a just 10 seconds, where is gonna find it?
This is your Rivendell. There. Says it there.
Okay.
This is your mic.
Okay.
All the rest of the mics you won't be using, I guess.
Yeah.
And those are your CDs.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
And those are the headphone volume and speaker volume.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.